Welcome back, Guardians. I'm going to delete this one because it's just not worth it. Um, okay, so Bungie apparently has said that they're going to up the difficulty on Vanguard Ops and other PvE content by adding more targets to the map. They're thinking that players have it too easy or something like that. They're in game design. There's this really delicate juggling act that goes on with making a game fun, playable, and as also challenging and engaging. See, now I differentiate between challenging and engaging. I think that an engaging game is more valuable. Killed by the architects. What the fuck? Did something land on me? I think an engaging game is more enjoyable than a game that is so-called challenging. I don't find games that are challenging to be very. I mean, I play games to do the things that I can't do in reality. That's my fantasy. That's my mission, my goal, my directive when it comes to gaming in general and video gaming in particular. Um, Video games are a place that you can do the things that you normally can't do in your day to day, like swing a sword against goblins and dragons, to launching mini nukes at an opponent in a small space, and things like that, or take flying leaps off of tall structures and basically bounce right back up because you're an eternal, like we are as guardians. I don't come to games to build stress and tension. I don't come to games to challenge myself in that respect. I don't want my patience tested. I don't want my emotional endurance tested. I don't want my intellectual stamina tested. I don't want my reflexes even tested. I don't mind a puzzle. I don't mind gameplay that is puzzles. I don't mind competitive gaming. If I go to Crucible, if I go to PvP, if I go to a game to PvP, to player versus player, I go to Crucible in Destiny. When I come to Strikes, it's because I want to engage in cooperative gameplay where we're all working together against a common bad guy. And it seems like, for the most part, I don't see why Bungie needs to, up the difficulty of the game, because the players do that on their own just by fighting with each other over kills and objective markers and things like that. It's like, I don't fucking get it, dude. You know how many times I have been shoved out of a defense spot by Titans who shoulder charge in because they think it's funny? And I've actually been, I've had my character fucking obliterated against, such things as what, against obstacles and even other, I got basically shoulder charged into misadventure. Really? Seriously? And he didn't even fucking go down. Yeah, and like I said, the game is challenging enough just as it is. I mean, I never found Destiny to be a very difficult game to play, and because of that, I've often felt that Destiny was the one place I can come and and have fun. Just like like when we were kids and we used to play make pretend with our action figures, dolls, whatever, and or we would be on the playground, reenacting the week's current episode of Adventure Time or whatever. Well, I wasn't a kid during Adventure Time. I'm talking about like when I was a kid, when we would do play acting on the recess during recess. It was reenacting the latest episode of Star Trek, the original series, and or coming up with our own versions. Um, and which is great because I mean, play for me, it was all about exercising my imagination. Play for most people is, I would hope, to be about exploring and experimenting possibilities and examining the what ifs of the world around you. But it seems like and when Destiny was first launched, I came to Destiny with that naivety. uh, I really did experiment and explore, and I had fun, discovering all the different gear and figuring out which weapon types worked best with me and which were more of a struggle. And I didn't mind the struggle. I thought the struggle was fine. It was just enough. But as with everything else, the super competitive thirst lords start to show up, and everything just becomes their game. It becomes their game. They don't want to put up with what they would call casuals. They don't want to entertain the idea that maybe we're here role playing a narrative and having fun, just immersing ourselves in the lore and the environment, and trying to, like, just have a nice mental exercise that doesn't involve, worrying about your allies, stabbing you in the back just because they want to have the higher leaderboard. I fucking hate the leaderboards. I hate leaderboards in games. I remember the After Carnage reports back in some of the earlier, console role-playing games that, would tell you what your score was. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, if that's a goal, beat your score. That's kind of fun. I don't consider Super Mario an RPG. It's a platform puzzle game. Um, and then that was the thing. It was like, this was your score. This is, now your goal is to beat the score. Then it was about, how about beating your best times, and that kind of stuff. We came up with our own objectives and our own challenges. And then when video gaming, evolved and started, including things like leaderboards and trophies, and I looked at that. I was like, that's not why I'm here. I'm not really here for leaderboards and trophies. I never have been. And then they tied that shit into, objectives in the actual game where you had to beat a certain, medal limit or whatever. It was just not something fun for me to do. And in fact, there was a few points during Destiny 1 where even then I was kind of like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. And it wasn't until the later game, when they announced Destiny 2 coming out, and hunters were no longer, treated like freaking pariahs in the game. I loaded up a hunter and I started maining one, and I've never actually turned back. I mean, I've explored Titans and Warlocks periodically in this game off and on, but I find that hunters play better for me than Titans and Warlocks do. I don't know. Warlocks always kind of feel like easy mode, Titans as well, and I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's enough challenge in the game already. They don't need to keep ramping that crap up. It's not going to create better engagement. All it's going to do is it's going to separate the community even more. And you're going to isolate a large group of players that could otherwise spend hours playing your game. We all know that's what you guys want. You want people playing the game. That's why you say, well, we don't really want you grinding. But grinding, by definition, is spending all the time that you have available to you as your hobby in the game. That's what grinding is. You don't want us grinding. You want us to exploring and playing all the content, but you still want us there for the 3 or 4 fucking hours an afternoon that you expect. And it's like, well, maybe we don't. Maybe we don't have 3 to 4 hours a fucking day anymore. People grow up. People's lives change. People's interests change. And when a game keeps pushing you away because, in favor of more intensity as opposed to more engagement, I mean, I would be looking for what gets the community engaged. What keeps us coming back? And what used to keep us coming back was the ongoing influx of new maps and new environments, new gear, weapons, armor, mods, things like that. And I thought, when they were sunsetting it, I actually got behind the idea of sunsetting. I thought it was chicken shit, but I was like, but this is something that we can really do. We can get into this. And I even went so far as to basically delete all the weapons that had been tagged as sunsetted, which included, several hundred hours worth of Black Armory play, which I regret to this day. I really don't think that was a really smart move for me, because I did have some really good rolls on some really nice Black Armory weapons, and now that everything's battle leveled, for the most part, power levels don't mean dick outside of, like, Trials, Iron Banner, and I think maybe Gambit. But even then, I've gone into Gambit matches with 1600 gear and been pretty viable. It's just, it's a heartbreaker, because I got all excited about the fact that, hey, if they're going to be doing this, then maybe that means they're going to bring in more content. And they did, but it really wasn't anything different. It was just it's kind of like it's this, but instead of a red label, now it's a blue label, and like who fucking cares? It still tastes like garbage. It still doesn't satisfy, and it's still sitting there on the shelf, warming a peg, or hiding out in the back warehouse, you being an end table and a couch for some employees on break time. um, so yeah, I'm excited that the game is getting to a point where it's going to be literally the final shape. They're not going to be doing anything more with it, but keep ramping the difficulty. Yeah, you'll see this player finding something else to do and something actually to spend his money on, because I don't want to spend my money to be made to feel miserable. That's not my kink. So thank you. Thanks for stopping by, and in the meantime, don't play something that makes you angry. Go find something that makes you smile.